The following is rated not safe for work. It contains strong language, adult situations, and lots of spoilers. Discretion is advised.
In the criminal justice system, cinematic-based offenses are considered especially heinous. The dedicated attorneys who investigate these villainous films are members of an elite squad known as the Reels of Justice. These are their stories.
Order, please, order. The Reels of Justice is now in session. Judge, if you want to be my lover, you gotta get Ryan Luis Rodriguez presiding. Your eyes for the Honorable Judge Rodriguez. Some people have no respect for how hard it is to talk in this accent.
Whoever wrote that, go fuck yourself. Today we are hearing the case of The People vs. Spice World, a 1997 musical comedy following the semi-fictional account of the life of the Spice Girls as they zip around London at the height of their popularity. For those of you unfamiliar with our court proceedings, we are here to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. As always, in this courtroom, films are to be considered excellent until proven awful, and the burden of proof lies upon the prosecution to prove beyond a shadow of a reasonable doubt that this film is guilty. Mr. Big Ben Haslar, you're appearing on behalf of the prosecution. You may present your opening statement.
June 10th, 2021. One of this courtroom's darkest hours when the court ruled in favor of the nonsense just for the sake of nonsense in the case of The People versus Gremlins 2, The New Batch. On that fateful day, a very handsome lawyer put forth the argument in the beginning that because it's anarchy as its plot device, it allowed them to have it both ways when it came to any sort of criticism. If something didn't make sense, the filmmakers could just shrug and say, yeah, that was exactly the point, and thus work itself into some sort of criticism immunity. The system is broken. Your Honor, members of the court, the accused sitting before you today is charged with that very same crime, and it will fall to you to decide if this ruling holds merit. Because the snowball has tumbled just a bit further down the hill, and the avalanche of nonsense that is Spice World sits before you. What we have in Spice World is 5 girls who can't act, and are more marketing machines trying to sell a few more copies of their new album in upcoming concerts. The budget is clearly not very high, but you have a handful of celebrities who are willing to shoot some 5-second cameos. The solution to this puzzle, from a writing perspective, was to take the lazy way out, pull a card out of the Gremlins 2 handbook, and flood the zone with nonsense, and pretend that they're meta and in on the joke. The plot doesn't add up by intent. We're constantly being interrupted by sketches and bits trying to obscure the fact that these 5 couldn't act out a character arc if their lives depended on it, and to feature as many songs from the new album as possible. What I really, really want, is for this film to zigga zigga kiss my ass.
Thank you, Mr. Haslar, and I will not tolerate any Gremlins 2 heresy in this courtroom. Appearing on behalf of the defense is Lydia, Naomi, Jen, and Sean from the Shocked Applaud podcast. Please present your opening statement.
Stop. Right there. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen of the audiosphere, this is a simple case of a film coming out 20 years too soon. I would like to counter my esteemed colleague's assertion that this film's rottenness by stating that Spice World is in fact a feminist masterpiece that was way ahead of its time. Unlike the highly rated non sequitur films of male bands from the Beatles, the Monkees, and Pink Floyd, Spice World was relegated by the Weinstein-led patriarchy of the late 90s media to the bargain bin of Blockbuster stores. Let us step back into the Wayback Machine, Sherman, and travel to the turbulent times of 1997-98, before #MeToo, before mansplaining. Back to the age where your Tamagotchi cried for attention, grunge and flannel were making its fashion exit, and everybody's younger sister was trying to break the world record for the most times a 15-year-old could watch James Cameron's Titanic in the theater. In 1998, the world was preparing for the arrival of 5 girls from England who had the single-word descriptive names, large, chunky shoes, and a flair for shouting girl power. Spice World, the movie, made the bold assertion that young, aspirational women with a Y with middling karaoke skills can demand that their needs and wants should be taken seriously. That the men of the world who hold the power are constantly wasting women's time, blocking female empowerment, and generally keeping women from leading mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and sexually fulfilling lives. Spice World screams that sexual objectivation of the female form is in the eye of the beholder. Years before Slut Walks and Take Back the Night events declared that appearance did not imply consent. This is a clever satire of pop culture. Spice World boldly advocated for normalized single motherhood in a way that managed to avoid the Murphy Brown ire of the early 90s conservatives, think potato quail. Even the male villains in the film ridicule the music industry media of pigeonholing women into simplified caricatures of one-dimensional personas. I would hope that you, the esteemed jury, find this underestimated feminist gem has aged less like a moldy French cheese and more like the expensive wine it is. It deserves to be re-examined in this, the age of #YesAllWomen.
Hear, hear.
Thank you, Shocked and Applaud. Big Ben, you may proceed with your first exhibit.
Boo.
Hey. I quote those sages of the 90s with their song Wannabe. Now don't go wasting my precious time. Get your act together, we could be just fine. They don't
We knew
follow
Ben
their own
would
advice,
sing.
I'm afraid. The point
love
of
it.
this movie, from a business perspective, is to sell their new album and to promote tickets. So they have to feature all of the songs from this new upcoming album that they can. It takes priority over any narrative that the script might provide. And there's only so many songs that you can fit into a plot that's really just, we went from one concert to another and our friend went into labor. But more on that in a future exhibit. So we'll have dumb little sketches, like them imagining their moms, just so they can play the song Mama in the background. Dumb song, by the way. Mama, I love you. Mama, I care. Any third grader could have written that. The scene isn't funny at all and should be cut, and would be cut if they didn't need to feature the song, because it has no narrative presence in this story. These fantasies and diversions are what make up most of this film, and hardly any of them are funny. There's a photo section, there's writers like, yeah, we can play one of their songs in the background of that and have them taking pictures as Marilyn Monroe or whatever. That'll eat up some time. How many more minutes do we have to write in the script now? It's not funny. So many of these scenes just go by, and I'm not even sure what to make of them. They're spies at one point. Aliens come down to touch one of their boobs. They're singing about lollipops on a speedboat for some reason. None of them establish any character arcs or drama or anything. It's usually someone saying, hey, we need to do this for the tour, and them like, hey, let's just do our own thing while playing a song from the album in the background. These girls aren't different enough from each other, and there's no plotted growth from the beginning to the end. They laugh about people thinking Gucci dresses or whatever is a character trait, but the movie never really shows me anything else either. Jerry talks about feminism here and there, but never says anything substantive about it, just that it exists. And the last point about the structure I would like to make is the cameos for the sake of cameos. Elton John shows up for like a second backstage, and the girls kiss him, and that's the end of that. Is seeing Elton John on screen supposed to make me happy? He doesn't have any lines. He doesn't sing or play the piano or anything. Why is he here? There's absolutely no point for it other than, hey, look, celebrity we managed to shoot for 5 seconds. And then, of course, there's Roger Moore, the most tried man of justice, who, I guess, as a studio executive, like, none of the scenes really amount to anything. He's just sort of like a semi-quasi Bond reference person. He's drinking martinis. He's holding up animals like Blofeld. If you want to spice up your life, just ask me to pass the pepper. You don't need to waste your time on this nonsense.
Objection. I would say that the cameos are some of the best parts of this movie, because it's not just about the Spice Girls. It's about the people who come together. Whether it's in their love or their hatred, they still are coming together. And they are individuals who are essentially still living their own lives, but they still are coming together because of their love or hatred, because of this emotional reaction to this group.
Attorney Lydia, I cannot disagree. I mean, I cannot agree with you more. These cameos in excess. The prosecution says just a few, but no, nay, I say a myriad of appearances that decorate and enrich the tapestry of this film, no shorter than the poorly written list that I have. Not only featured characters, but cameos of people who I recognize as a layman American viewer, right? We got Alan Cummings. We got Elton John. We got Mark McKinney. We got Norm from Cheers, whose name I forget. We got Hugh Laurie.
George Wendt.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sean knew that. I didn't. And then we got Hugh Laurie playing Hercule Poirot. And I love Hercule Poirot. I've watched all of the Nile Death on the Whatever movies, and this might be my favorite Hercules so far, right? Hugh, take me away. We got Meatloaf, we got Bob Hoskins, we got Jennifer Saunders, we got Stephen Fry, and other people I didn't write down because I have poor handwriting.
Oh, Sean.
I would also like to point out that in the Christmas of 1998, there is a young boy who is incredibly surprised by his uncle, Stephen Fry, giving him a signed Spice World poster, which he got from appearing in the movie. So not only is this movie great for people, it's also great for kids on Christmas.
Yeah.
And is the narrative disjointed?
I don't think so. Because you
What?
I have reasons for this, and they are that I feel like, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, and you'd be wrong to tell me that I'm wrong, that the prosecution does not fully grasp British humor. And whereas I don't, I at least know that it's complicated and there's lots to it. And a lot of it is based in a grand tradition of skits and humor that are from
Objection. This is a deflection. They're just saying,
well,
well, I don't understand it, and he's not British, so he might not understand it either, but surely it makes sense to someone.
Yeah, it makes sense
Sustained.
to me. So.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, when you say sustained, it makes me feel like I shouldn't keep arguing, but I'm going to anyway.
No. Please proceed. Please proceed.
Because
Keep digging your grave. Come on.
I've got to. It's not even a grave. Here it is. I'm digging you into the underworld that is a beautiful labyrinth that is this film. We have the narrative of the so Mark McKinney's character is telling us this story, right? He's pitching a movie and he keeps getting told that's not how it works, and so he pivots, and then when he wants to stick to his point, he's like, that's how movies do. And so we aren't given something disjointed. We are given the connect toys of how a story is truly built within the structure of British humor.
Also, every one of these characters has character growth. Do you want to talk about the Spice Girls' character growth? Because they are struggling with the fact that they have this professional career, but they don't have any time for their personal career, as is demonstrated by their friendship with Nicola. Nicola is not just an individual in their life. She is not meant to be taken literally. She is meant to be taken metaphorically.
I would also posit, my dear attorneys, and whoever, that
One attorney.
Whatever. All the people present here in the courtroom today.
We're jurors.
Okay, jurors, please listen to this truth that I'm laying down for you. The prosecution posits that marketing and acting are separate things, when in fact they are the same thing. And the Spice Girls are so proficient at it that this movie appears almost too glossy. But it's not, because it is the precision of their artistry. And when an artist performs their craft expertly, it's almost as if a magician is working and you don't see the mechanics behind the fantastic thing presented to you.
Mr. Haslar, would you care to proceed with your next exhibit?
Okay, yeah, there's a lot there, but I think I will address most of them. I do want to talk about the plot without any sketches, and here it is. The girls ended one concert, and apparently their next one is the biggest one in the world or something, because the script says it should be. So their managers are understandably trying to get them to do their jobs and rehearse to promote this stuff, and the girls are continuously don't want to do it, and and just do their own thing, like kidnapping some minors and putting them on a speedboat without their parents' permission. And then the press are painted as the bad guys in this whole thing for reporting on child safety. Their manager tries to do damage control by continuing on with the concert, and the girls are like, nah, friendship is more important, ignoring the more basic palling around. They've been doing Europe throughout this whole film and telling each other stories the whole time. You had your playtime. You also have to work too, okay? We all have jobs. But no, they decide to go to the concert and take their pregnant friend out to the club, a place every 9-month-old pregnant woman wants to go to, I know.
True.
And then ditch that friend on the balcony to go dancing to their own song on the level below. Yeah, friendship is more important, my eye. The friend goes into labor and they all rush to the hospital and then rush to the concert with absolutely no lessons learned. Then there's some sort of weird subplot where a newspaper exec is sick of their fame and tries to make up a story where the Spice Girls break up. And while he's talking, he's spitting more than King George and Hamilton, and thunder starts to rumble, and the guy he's talking to is like suddenly covered in pouring rain inside the office. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. I can't really make out what's going on there. Is it his spit or what's going on there? It's not funny. It's confusing. They hire a paparazzi photographer who shows up in random scenes, just popping out of random places. And you can tell that this was sort of an idea they were tossing around in the writing room because, yeah, photographers popping out, snapping pictures. That's something they have to deal with. But the problem is it doesn't go anywhere. It's very anticlimactic. And the other problem is we already have a similar subplot with Alan Cumming being some sort of guerrilla documentarian following them around, trying to get footage of the real Spice Girls. And again, they write him off in a very similarly lazy way that's anticlimactic. I think the character even says so in the end as sort of a meta joke. I say to the writers who try to waste my time like this, who do you think you are?
Defense, would you care to defend the plot?
I
sing
will
it, please.
Take this one. And sing it? Okay. I would
From the
say that if you take this plot and the plot of A Hard Day's Night by the Beatles, the two become one. I think that in our feminist take on this particular argument, that to say that this particular plot line of 5 British girls going through their day in England and Italy and other places is not unlike the Fab Four going on through their day in A Hard Day's Night. Yet that movie was recognized for its excellence in writing, where this movie was not.
It hasn't been tried here yet.
Yeah. Mr. Haslar, what do you feel about these connections to the Beatles?
I haven't seen A Hard Day's Night. I probably should have in preparing to this case. And I do think that they see themselves as sort of a on a similar track to the Beatles, where they suddenly boomed in popularity and everyone's, I guess, interested in them rather than their music. But I don't know. It seems like a celebrity worship to me to sort of like go this far, this fast. And given that they kind of plummet after this, releasing like a third album and then nothing, I think sort of speaks to that ballooning up that's basically on nothing.
Objection.
Whereas the Beatles had charisma.
Objection. I find it preposterous to suppose that one of the, if not the most successful female pop bands of all time comparing themselves to the Beatles is an erroneous step. I feel like it is the exact right step for strong, confident women who know what they want. What they really
to be fair, the Beatles did think they were bigger than Jesus, so I do think that the ego speaks. there is a parallel there.
Mr. Haslar,
so you get really mad about so you get really mad about when they sing about mothers comparing themselves maybe to Mother Mary. You think that's a step too far, but the Beatles can
do they?
Claim,
oh, I haven't heard that song.
No, look, it's the jokes, but you're like. You know, the Beatles compared themselves to Jesus, but like if they sing a song about mothers, they're like pandering to the audience. But
no, I don't think that the song Mama is a good example of that. I think the fact that they're just sort of like, hey, buy our boom boxes and our Polaroid cameras, and we're more of a marketing machine than we are a band, is what speaks to their ego.
So is every popular manufactured band. They're not doing a bad job at that.
That's true, and I condemn them all.
What I think that you are missing severely is the female experience, and I just assume this because I've assumed your gender, but I don't think that you've ever supposed that one of your objectives in life was to be a mother. I don't suppose that one of your objectives in life is to have a good time with your friends without having to make it about a man. I don't suppose that you have had to defend yourself in not only your social but work realms and your political circles and your news outlets. Like at every turn you have to be like, no, I'm competent, this is what I want. No, You are trying to put your machinations on me, and I will not stand for that. And to constantly be on the objective and still be a creature of joy is what they do in this film, and it's lost on you because you have the male gaze.
I'm going to go ahead and sustain that one because
Oh,
if
no.
I overrule, I sound like an asshole. Mr. Haslar, please present your next exhibit.
All right, let's talk about the meta. So George Wendt, aka Norm from Cheers, is some sort of movie maker who apparently has free license to make whatever movie he wants. And while he's noodling on this, he's watching the Spice Girls on TV promoting their upcoming concert at Albert Hall. He and his writer buddy start thinking that they should make a Spice Girls movie. And they're having scenes throughout this movie where they're pitching ideas, most of which don't make any sense. And I'm sure was meant to be some sort of meta thing for the creators trying to figure out how to make this film where the 5 girls can't act. And by the way, they should have gone with Spice Force 5. I'm not saying it would have been good, but it would have been better than this trick. And somehow this turns into the pitch becoming the actual movie that we're watching, where the writer is narrating things that are happening on screen. Like there's a ton of loose ends that we need to tie up. This tabloid guy has been painted as the bad guys are swept under the scandal of some kind during the sequence, and any plot threads go away. But this just highlights the intentionally lazy writing going on here. And they pull this crap in the third act of the movie. Like, haha, it's all a movie. Get it? It's a joke. It's lame. We were in on it the whole time, guys. To paraphrase these people, if you want to be not guilty, you got to start making sense. This script is just lazy. God, this writer's dense. I rest.
He's resting, but he gave us a song.
Is this a meta bridge too far?
Well, I think what the prosecutor is failing to take into consideration is we have been inundated in the movies and the stories that we have been forced to take in over the last 100 years of the hero's journey. And I think that is where he's getting a lot of his experience. I think that is a way of telling stories, but it is not the only way of telling stories. It's not just about the 3-act structure. It's sometimes about an episodic journey of every one of these characters. And it can feel a little bit disjointed, but only if you're not paying attention.
I would like to also bring to the jurors' attention a psalm of wisdom from over here across the waters. Okay, I have 2 of them for you. I have one from Britain and I have one from here in the United States.
Perfect.
Okay, the States one is friendship. I'm going to paraphrase. Friendship is magic. Get over it, right? And the second one is, and I truly hope that even though you seem to be blind to the humor that is propagated in this film, that you will understand that, and now for something completely different, is a core value in British humor. So the non sequitur segues, like the way that they go from we're doing this to doing this to doing this. That's how the prosecution seems flabbergasted that the plot seems to be manufactured by the script, which is how I think scripts and plots work. But because I don't have another argument. I don't have another argument. He says it like it's a bad thing, but I don't know how it's supposed to work otherwise.
I would like to point out from a film historical perspective, at this time you have a film that came out only recently, 2 years earlier, in Scream, which was huge on the meta commentary and self-referential humor. I think that this movie was probably spot on during the time that meta humor was in the public consciousness. So I think having the meta humor, having the actors break the fourth wall at the end, is probably at that time pretty unique and groundbreaking.
Best ending.
Objection. Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Objection. Ferris Bueller's Day Off is garbage.
I'm going to sustain that one.
Objection to the objection. It so is not.
Yeah, I'm going to have to sustain that one. Prosecution, do you have any rebuttals to this argument?
Well, yeah, friendship is magic, but the thing is they never do their jobs. Like there's enjoying your life, and then there's you got to make a living, and
Objection
the whole point
in
of
the
this
middle
movie.
of it. Look,
they do their job.
Yeah. Okay. So the issue with and they're singing
And they
now.
complain and bitch about it the whole time.
And look, apparently that's a problem for you, but I'm going to complain and bitch right now. They are singing and doing their rehearsal the entire fucking time they're getting ready for their concert. That is their work. They stop, they rehearse, they do a song that pisses you off.
They meet aliens, they do first contact.
Yeah, but here's what you should also know. Life is what happens in between work, and these women are truly alive.
Interesting.
Sustained.
Yeah. Sure, sustained. Now that the prosecution has rested, Shocked and Applaud, you may present your first exhibit.
2 words. Alan Cumming. He was a staple in the 1990s, and it makes sense that he would go ahead and be a part of this movie. And he wanted to do his Scottish accent, and they put that in at the very end.
Because this movie is all about letting people be who they truly are, even if you're mad about the marketing machine.
But he didn't actually do the Scottish accent. He wanted to. But he was still a professional. And he was like, I'm going to go ahead and do a British accent for this. But it's not just about Alan Cumming. It is about all of those cameos. Mm-hmm. Do you know, if you have Stephen Fry in your movie and he's only doing it for a signed poster, I think...
and that gun that was off to the side of the frame.
I'm just saying, like, if Stephen Fry wanted to come onto your podcast for some merch, I think you would say yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
And Stephen Fry, that scene was like the one funny cameo scene in the whole thing. I'll give you that one. But every other one doesn't amount to anything.
Is that because you don't know who Jennifer Saunders is?
From Absolutely
yeah,
Fabulous.
Probably.
Yeah, she played
Absolutely Fabulous. She played the same character, and that is a quintessential British comedy from the 90s.
Yeah, like her being there was just peaches.
I'm sorry, which scene was hers?
So she's in the dance club where you don't understand why a pregnant woman doesn't want to dance in the middle of a crowded floor.
She's the blonde.
I don't know why the Spice Girls drowned her there. Like, why didn't they go do anything else?
Feet hurt.
She was the drunk blonde that was trying to talk to Jerry Halliwell, I believe.
It was Posh.
It was Posh.
Oh,
yeah. She's
okay.
like, no, I'm super cool, and I know all these people. As she's trying to smoke her cigarette, because she, in her show Absolutely Fabulous, like, her whole thing is you have to know people to get in places, and you have to talk a good game, and she's kind of crap at it, and it's hilarious if you've watched the show, and you would only have watched the show if you had tried to get some sort of grasp on British humor.
Gentlemen.
Well, I've certainly watched British shows, so I don't think I'm completely blind to that. I've seen Monty Python, I've seen The Office, but yeah, that joke doesn't go anywhere. Like, just on the face of it, it's fine to like have someone you admire or whatever in the film, but give them some material to work with. The joke is, hey, she said manta ray, and I don't know what that is, so maybe it's a designer. That's the joke. I mean, it's lame.
Yeah, she's trying to impress her Posh, who is all about fashion, who has little Gucci dress. She's like, oh no, yeah, totally, I'm designer too, trying to get in. It's part of being in the marketing entertainment industry.
So, Prosecutor,
it's no different than James Bond drinking a martini in this film. Okay, yeah, that's a thing he does. Cool.
Yeah, and if James Bond showed up and he didn't drink a martini, I'd be a little pissed.
Prosecutor,
he's not supposed to be James Bond. He's supposed to be the actor.
That's true.
She was playing her character from the show she was in. She was her James Bond. Jennifer Saunders was playing her James Bond, and you're mad that she... Oh my god.
Okay, a couple of things.
I'm mad that the joke wasn't funny. It should still land on someone who doesn't know who she is.
Prosecutor, this is characterization of a character, and you're saying that the joke doesn't land for you, by the way, because of the fact that she is an actress in a movie who is playing a part, and you don't think that the joke goes anywhere because of the fact that she's just playing a part.
I think
there's no punchline, basically.
It also kind of refers back to that it's kind of like a female joke, like it's a female rendered joke, like, who are you wearing is not something necessarily said between bros, like I
only say that when Silence of the Lambs is on. I
always say that between my bros.
I I'm wearing Ralph Lauren right now.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I wish I was wearing Jennifer Saunders.
But also the whole part with Roger Moore is not that he is supposed to be playing James Bond as a music executive. That would be ridiculous.
I think also what has been maligned and left unsaid is that this movie is every movie. Have you noticed? There is action, there is mystery, there is espionage, there's a ghost story, there's an aquatic adventure, there's a social commentary, there's a documentary, there's a dark and funny.
Yeah, exactly.
And, like,
That's
funny
what it
short-
is. They're flooding the zone with nonsense here. They're just cutting up a lot of different movies and putting it in the blender instead of focusing on something.
Because you've never had a good fucking time at a buffet.
I don't think that's
I've
true.
regretted it so severely
Well,
afterwards.
then you've gone to the wrong buffet, or you didn't know not to load up on that lukewarm shrimp.
Now you tell me.
Sustained.
Thank you. I would like you to note that there are calls to British humor throughout this entire thing. The cutbacks where apparently it's driving the prosecution insane, where they're like, no, this happened. No, this happened. That smacks of Clue. And Clue is brilliant and delicious, and I want more of it, and I didn't get any of it until the Spice World movie, right? We go to the bus, and you're like, hey, that bus is awesome and convenient for plot because they can just drive it through the city and say that they were there.
And they're ripping off Doctor Who.
But this is what I'm saying. It's bigger on the inside. And those of us who love Doctor Who were like, yeah, that's amazing.
I missed which one of them was Time Lord Spice. Which one?
That's Meatloaf.
Baby.
No, Meatloaf is Time Lord Spice. Because he's timeless.
I would also like to point out the Meatloaf joke about him not wanting to clean out the toilets because he loves the girls, but he won't do that.
You know, that
is brilliant writing right there.
But did you see the joke coming? Because I sure did.
Yeah.
And he's like, I love those girls, and I do anything for them.
Hey,
In my head, I
hey.
immediately fill in the blank.
Alan wasn't the only thing I wanted to see coming.
Oh, wow.
And
he's not even British. He's American.
Overrule that
Get
one.
him out of there. Ryan.
He's Scottish.
You're praising all these British cameos, and he's like this American guy, and you're like, hey, cool.
Yeah,
Neat.
yeah, but like he's brilliant. We have Meatloaf and we have Richard O'Brien, both from Rocky Horror Picture Show, and then I mean, like these guys instantly bring to mind, of course, Rocky Horror Picture Show, and then I think of these fantastic segues, these off-kiltered like these non-sequential conversations, these fantastic, like the costumes in this alone are a story that I want to follow, like the hairstyles, the cutting to like a military training scene, because if you know anything about the industry, the men and women who are in these kinds of propagated bands, they are militia like I mean, have you heard anything about K-pop bands? Like they are like put through the ringer, and often what makes them special individuals is wrung out of them. And these girls are, even if they are like within their own special stereotype, they debate it out in this film. They're like, well, let me try on your outfit. No, I like mine. Do I do this just to do this? No, I just am like this. You know, one is nurturing, one is strong and forceful, one is going to be protective of them as women, regardless of who's coming against them. And they surround themselves with people who are competent and help them get their objective done, which is one shit show, and I mean shit show in a good way, of a climactic scene where we are all brought together in their spice world.
Defense, do you have any further exhibits that you'd like to present?
I think we're ready for our closing arguments.
Okay. Both sides have rested their cases. The attorneys will now present their closing arguments. Mr. Big Ben, you may proceed.
I knew very little about the Spice Girls going into this case, but after this assignment, I think I can safely say that I know more about Spice World than any straight non-British male in his 30s living in the greater Denver area. And I can tell you that as much as Spice World would like to tell you differently, these were not 5 poor girls who had a dream and danced in a coffee shop to their demo wannabe. They were 5 girls who auditioned for Heart Management in the early 90s and became a marketing machine to sell not just albums, but dolls, boomboxes, Polaroid cameras, and a whole host of other plastic crap that nobody needed. They paved the way for the Kardashians. by making you think that each was so interesting and you had to follow and obsess over what their hairstyle was or whose bum they pinched at a party and if that broached royal protocol. And yes, in this movie, with no substance and no real character traits to draw from, which served not just as a way to draw more cash from anyone who listened to their album by pulling a theater's ticket worth out of it, but also served as a commercial for their next. And this might be forgivable if they took the time to think and give us any real content, something to think about feminism, or at least some good, really hearty belly laughs. But none of that is here. It's in this cash grab. And this one last attempt at relevancy before this third album came out to keep this money machine going. All we are left with is Kim and Chloe. But at least the Spice Girls could sing a bit. Their lyrics and personalities nowhere match the Beatles. Their egos may be as big as the Fab Four, I'll grant you. Jurors, Harry Spice, Soupy Spice, and Wiggles. Think about this when you're in that deliberation room, won't you? This film is nonsense for the sake of nonsense, to pull this theater's worth of cash out of your pocket and to provide you with nothing in return. It's a grift, and it deserves your guilty verdict. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Haslar. Shocked and Applaud, you may present your closing argument.
Excuse me. Why is this movie called Spice World? Simple question, right? Again, I ask you rhetorically, why call it Spice World? Isn't it supposed to be about this band of 5?
Just set it down. Sorry, hold on a second.
I don't know what my co-host is doing.
I know. I'm passing notes like a jerk. Please go ahead.
Isn't this supposed to be a band of 5 women? You may say each of them represents an aspect of the world. To that idea, I say no. It goes much deeper. To find the answer, we must look at all those characters and their journeys. The press, story of hubris. Nicola, grappling with being a single mom. The Spice Girls, balancing personal and professional lives, which is always hard in a capitalist society. A capitalist society that requires those with talent to condense their art to nothing that could be seen as something other than plastic. We're not meant to belly laugh. We're meant to snicker in a knowing way.
I did snicker.
All of
it?
these...
Oh.
No, sorry.
They're still going, right?
Dramatic pause.
Sorry.
So very dramatic.
All of these stories are brought together for their love or hatred for the Spice Girls. Each character different, each with their own dreams and desires. This is the fourth wave of feminism in movie form. In thinking about the word world, another word comes to mind. Orbit. As we live our lives, we orbit the core of our world. So do these characters orbit the core of the fandom. They, and by extension, us, are a part of the Spice World. And I rest my case. I'm not actually a lawyer. I don't know if you know that.
We rest our case. We are all lawyers.
Thank you. All lawyers. Thank you.
Thank you both. Members of the jury, Mr. Dylan J. Schlender, Mr. Rob Maynard, and Mr. Tonight is the Night to Become Ryan Luis Rodriguez. You have all heard the facts concerning this case. It's now up to you to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. The bailiff will escort you to the deliberation room to render your verdict.
I thought the song 2 Becomes One was about daylight savings time.
That's funny.
That's actually really good. That's really good.
You must be one of them.
It must be opposite day where you are.
I hear Bailiff doesn't even write his own jokes.
It's opposite day, because if you thought that joke was good, but this movie was bad, you might be completely flipped.
Humor is subjective, but that joke was objectively great.
All right, everyone. So great case. The courtroom was packed with lawyers. We were all in there like sardines. We ran out of chairs. So looking at what Ben was saying, he always gets stuck with these kind of movies where like they try to build in these escape valves. Like there's just so much crazy stuff going on. They're in on the joke, so if something's bad, LOL, we did it on purpose.
We just give him all the cases where he has to sing.
Well, that is what it is.
We just want to make him sing.
And then, the Shocked Applaud crew came in here and they were pointing out what I thought were some good points. It's like, there are some feminist undertones into this, but at the end of the day, it is marketing, and that's not inherently a bad thing. So, Maynard, I would like to hear from you.
I mean, I don't know if one word that was used was capitalist, and this is definitely capitalistic. The Spice Girls are really hot at this point. One thing Ben mentioned is that they have to cram their songs in from this album, but actually they were writing their second album while making this movie, which had to be super difficult. And so the movie was kind of tailor-made to that. But there really is not a plot, and there really is not character progression. I think there's establishment. Like, this is getting to know the Spice Girls better if you don't know them. But I don't think they really change from the beginning to the end. Only our information about them grows more. But Ryan, what do you think about movies that don't have plots or don't really have a character development? There's still some value to that?
Yeah, I don't think you necessarily have to have a plot. I mean, if you look at, it's been brought up several times, but if you look at A Hard Day's Night, it's just a series of music videos.
But
there's really no connective tissue that makes them all together.
But would we find Hard Day's Night innocent?
That's the thing. Is Hard Day's Night actually good, or is it only interesting because it's a snapshot of one of the most successful bands in history, which the Spice Girls did not live up to? They had 2 really, really strong years where they can compete, but they didn't have the longevity.
Yeah, but I mean, like with this, I saw in the credits, based on a story by the Spice Girls.
Do you think we'd find Hard Day's Night a really good film, Ryan?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it is a great film. Even though it has the worst Beatles music, I think it is a great movie. But with Spice World, like, it could be worse. It could be From Justin to Kelly. So thank God we didn't get that.
Or Crossroads.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it could be Crossroads. Oh, boy.
You should do Crossroads.
Okay, both Crossroads and From Justin to Kelly had actual plots. And you think that this movie suffers because of its lack of a plot? Even though you claim it to be better than 2 movies that have very specific plots to them.
The plots might not be good, but we do have to get lawyers out of the jury room, though.
I've just never seen.
Couldn't even answer my question. Movies. Okay, great.
Yeah. Well,
if the movies that have plots have bad plots, then yes, I think they'd be worse than a movie with no plot. I do think a bad plot's worse than no plot. So, question answered.
I think with this movie, I guess like in the negative column, there's just not a lot of meat on the bone. It is just the music videos. I actually kind of liked a couple of the vignettes. They were they mentioned like Absolutely Fabulous. I have seen a lot of Ab Fab in my day, and like it was nice seeing those calls, like the when they were imagining themselves all as mothers. That's why I told Maynard, I said, that's very Ab Fab. And he's like, what? And then she ends up showing up in the movie. I'm like, I knew it.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, you did. You were like, oh, I'm Maynard. I sound like this. This is what I sound like.
That.
Okay. But
I did like the Bob Hoskins cameo, and I thought the Elton John. I thought a lot of the cameos there made sense. Either they were funny because they were great British actors, or like they made sense. Like Elton John makes sense. Elton John would hang out in the kind of venue Spice Girls would.
But that's the thing, like, I think Roger Moore gives the best performance in the movie. And I say that as somebody who has been extraordinarily harsh on him from the James Bond movies we covered. But him, like, making up aphorisms as he's sitting in his little room is endlessly amusing to me. But I'm amazed that somebody is in the movie that was never brought up during the case is Richard E. Grant, who is always the best part of anything he appears in. And this is no exception. Like, only Richard E. Grant could deliver the line, that was absolutely perfect without being any good. That is classic Grant. That's Granty at his best. So, are we going to start locking in?
Yeah, well, okay, I'll make it official then since I'm the foreman. Let's start locking it in. Either one of you go ahead and jump in.
Rob?
Oh, I get to go first, huh?
Yes.
Although I think, there's really not a plot or character. I don't think that's really the point of this film. The Spice Girls are are very, very popular, and people just want to see more of them. So why would filmmakers not give them that? And I do think they got to make some points with the film that were important to the Spice Girl ideology, especially about like having fun with your friends, being very independent, not being controlled,
having babies,
or choosing not to. You know, to Ben's point, it would have been nice if their friends, you know, stayed with their pregnant friend instead of ditching them to the dance floor. I think that was really the point. But I still think they managed to pack a message in there. I do think movies like this, which if it's like A Hard Day's Night, make a lot less sense in the 90s where there are music videos. Like there weren't really as many music videos in like the 60s. So if you wanted to see the Beatles running around singing, you kind of had to see a movie. But there were tons of parallels being drawn between the Spice Girls and the Beatles at this time. You know, they're the Fab Five, and it makes sense to go for this movie. And their second album's way better than their first. It's much better. So the music in this movie is a lot better. So overall, you know, we're probably not the target audience for this, but I do think it's a great little snapshot of an extremely popular pop group at the height, at their zenith. You're seeing them in full pomp and in living color. So I'm going to go not guilty.
And then Ryan Luis Rodriguez.
Rye Guy, can you hear us still?
Ooh, we might have lost him.
No, I'm
yes, you're Rye Guy.
Ryan.
Don't scare me like that. You're Rye Guy.
Okay.
I said your full name, Ryan Luis Rodriguez. Come on.
I happen to think this movie's pretty cute. I enjoyed my time watching it. I am the typical or target audience for this film because I am an unusual boy. But Ben gave a very impassioned case. I think that his points were well considered, and I think that despite how I feel about this movie, I have to reward the case, so I'm gonna go guilty.
You're gonna put this decision in Dylan's hands, who's absolutely not the target audience for
not
this film.
Not up to me. I could have gone last.
He's a very usual boy. All right.
Well, okay. I really thought I thought Ryan was going to go not guilty because that's how he feels, but you know, I do struggle to see the value in this movie. I do think Ben had a great case, so I'm also going guilty. I'm sorry. It's just
Ryan, you shouldn't have left it up to him.
you know, is it guilty of being bad? Yes, it is. I just don't see anything that lets this squeak into that gray territory.
Is it because you think it's just a cash grab with no plot?
No, I think it's just well, that's a piece of it. It's just that there's no connective tissue throughout, and then the movie ends with it being a movie, and I just don't think it's particularly clever. And I think you have movies that like the Pussycats, Josie and the Pussycats, that hit a lot of these same notes and frankly do it better. You know, so I just don't see what value this movie's adding unless you're just like a huge fan, like a Spice Girls completist. And if you're out there, God bless you. Thank you for listening to the show. But it's a bad movie.
Dang. Well, there you go, Ryan.
Yeah, it's all my fault.
Hey, I told you not to leave it in his hands. That's what he's going to be. All right, well, then we got to get out there and tell that very handsome judge.
We do have to get out there and tell that very handsome judge.
Mr. Foreman, have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor. In the case of the People vs. Spice World, we find the defendant guilty of being a bad movie.
Jen, could you hit that green button for me?
What green button?
Your big green button.
You got to turn up the volume first.
Thank you.
I think it's
they had that built into their desk because they knew.
No, it's just that we're prepared because we're mostly women.
Prepared for disappointment.
Did you have another button?
Prepared for disappointment button.
Yeah, no, hold on a second. We have another one. Jen, turn that up. And this is the result of your first date. Hit that orange top right one. Yeah. There you go.
Oh no.
Oh, so mean to Ben.
We're becoming a morning zoo crew almost instantly. Where's the fart sound?
All right, Maynard, bust out your Bob Dylan.
Ryan hasn't given the
Yeah,
given the
I haven't
verdict.
given the verdict yet.
Oh, well, I'm
Isn't
so
past
excited for the
sentencing.
interview. Okay, let's do that then.
The verdict is so rendered. Spice World is hereby sentenced to 2 more decades of being unavailable on home video, so who cares? Court is adjourned.
It's true. We had this whole thing. We're like, where do you get this movie? I thought you got it here. Let me send you a link. It's over this way.
Hey, this is Lushy Spice reporting to you live from outside the Rails of Justice. I was the 6th one, but they kicked me out for all of my drinking. Big Ben Haslar, would you care to share your thoughts on the jury's verdict?
I feel fantastic. I finally won a case this season, and I'm glad that it's one that chips at this capitalist marketing of the Kardashians. I do see the parallels here, and I'm coming for you next, Kim and Chloe. Thank you very much.
You're super bitter and you're a complete oppressor, but love ya. All right, now here comes Shocked and Applaud. Excuse me, could we get a word on how you feel about today's absolutely bullshit verdict?
Well, I remember seeing this film with a friend back when it came out, and there was a gentleman behind us that every few, maybe 15 to 30 minutes would say, ugh. And if somebody can love a movie that much, it deserves to be loved by all.
That's right, he gave it 5 knuckles up.
I hate that story so much, Jen.
We all did, baby. Now, thank you. That's all the time we have from the court today. Let's go back to the studio for post-trial analysis. Girl power! That was Lushy Spice. I don't like her very much.
No.
She was the alternate in case one of the other Spice Girls got sick.
There were though, because I was reading all about how this group kind of formed, and there were people that were in the initial group that just kind of flaked out or got kicked out. Could you imagine? Like a year later, you find out they're the biggest mega group, and you're like, God damn it! If I had just swallowed my pride and
you just make it a twist ending, like you bring them into like this reunion tour, you know? Like
yeah,
they
just
were
stuck with it.
Part of it.
Yeah, they are reuniting. They were talking about, I think, making another Spice World too, but
I did hear that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
where is it?
I don't know. Development hell, maybe. I'm not sure.
I believe it's Paramount Animation is making an animated sequel to Spice
like a
World.
Yellow Submarine kind of thing, which is a good
There's
idea.
so many plot threads for them to draw on.
Yeah. If Victoria can take the time off, we'll see. But a fun case, bullshit verdict, but never leave it in Dylan's hands. It's just a case of who you get on the jury sometimes. But I thought this movie was pretty fun. So Shocked and Applaud, what have you folks been up to? What's been keeping you busy lately?
Well, we recently reviewed an independent film called Green Ghost and the Masters of the Stone, and we've got a review of that. And we've also got an upcoming episode reviewing a Seattle independent film where we're located that we got invited to the premiere for, and that is called Man Baby.
Oh, we know a lot about that here. So when is Man Baby set to be released?
That is our September episode, so you will hear that from about maybe the second week to the end of the month.
So probably playing right now, because it's September right now, Ryan.
Right. It's not August at all.
No,
it's
not.
September.
It's September, Ryan. That sounds great. And you guys always do episodes in like 3 parts.
Yes, because our model is that our review is longer than the movie itself. We just completed. It's a look. If you rip the arms off of a drawing figure, it's still a model, even if it's kind of broken up in a way you didn't expect. So, I don't know if you've ever heard of Opus, A Wish for Wings That Work, right? No, by Berkeley Breathed. You're not into political comics that were turned into early '90s Christmas movies? No, made for TV.
No, I read Kathy a couple times.
Okay, yeah, yeah, but Opus is a penguin whose butt falls off occasionally, and what happened was we'd take turns picking movies, and I got to pick for July, which is their mistake, but I was like, well, let's do something really simple, right? Sorry, I picked for July. It airs in August, so you're going to get all 3 parts if you go in now, right? But it's
which was last month. August was last month, Ryan.
Yes. So all of these episodes, regardless, are available now, and it's a 23-minute made-for-TV cartoon based on a comic strip involving a penguin and Santa Claus and a cat named Bill, and we somehow stretched it out to a 3-part, 40-minute per episode. One episode, 40 minutes per part analysis.
It's a lot of math.
It's essentially 2 hours of us talking about a 30-minute or less than 30-minute movie.
Yeah, and it's awesome.
Oh,
that's
awesome.
That's why we keep doing it like 4 years later.
Awesome. So, and I imagine we can catch those everywhere we catch podcasts. Stitcher, Spotify, Apple.
ShockedAndApplaud.com also has all of our links.
Yeah, Podchaser's great. Frolic Podcast Network.
All right, cool. And we can find you also on the Twitter as well. Now, we always ask for recommendations for movies that you think our listeners should check out. So, in whatever order you want, what is a movie people should check out?
We each get to pick one?
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
why not? You're all individual people. You should all get a recommendation.
Let's start with me, do clockwise and then on Sean, okay? Counterclockwise. Okay. I think that you should watch Phantom of the Paradise. Because I feel like you need something to scream about. That you remember that 80s song, shout, shout, shout it all out. If you watch the Phantom of the Paradise, it will help you do that.
Gonna help you shout in anger or in joy.
This is the thing. Our podcast is called Shocked and Applaud because you should be enraged and given great joy in every truly pursued artistic endeavor. And Phantom of the Paradise is both magnificent and tragic in all of the senses of the word. So enjoy that if you get it on your radar.
All right, who's next?
Naomi and I saw Nope yesterday, and we really both enjoyed that one. So if you get a chance to see it while it's still in the theaters, that's my recommendation.
I got to see it at the drive-in. It was really great, and it was a nice cloudy kind of night. It was awesome. It was really great. Oh, what'd you like about it?
I have a long-standing dream to have one of those wobbly armed man in my
The wacky wavy inflatable tube man.
Yeah, and that's not to distract the fact that the plot and the acting and all of it was just absolutely perfect. But I do want me a wavy arm man.
Yeah,
and this
don't we all?
The sort of theme of sensationalizing trauma and how that kind of relates back to what we're experiencing right now in the nation. It's good. It's good metaphorical stuff that. I mean, the subtext is there, but it's not like in your face.
Right, good choice, definitely. Who's next?
Well, I would have to go and say the last movie that I saw, which was 3,000 Years of Longing by George Miller. That was just this beautiful tapestry of different stories and how you can kind of see the way that the characters make decisions by the end of the film, and the reasoning behind those decisions. And it's essentially they call it Aladdin for adults, but I would also let everybody know that there's romance in there. And I love Idris Elba and Tilda Swinton, and seeing chemistry between the two of them was just like a highlight. And George Miller knows what he's fucking doing, and so it's just it really just struck a chord with me. So
and then we got Sean.
Yeah, I'm gonna go a little bit out of country for my recommendation. I've been trying to get them to do this one. It's a Netflix film called RRR. Mm-hmm. It's a 3-hour Indian epic about two guys from during like the partition of India who become best friends and team up against the British. But it's also a musical, and it's also a love story, and it's also an amazing action figure with a whole bunch of CGI rabbits and tigers that maul a whole bunch of British soldiers. I mean, like, this movie it's got everything in it, and it is amazing. And most people don't watch a lot of foreign film, and I think this one is pretty great.
Yeah, we've heard good things too. I know it was on Netflix, so should be easy to track down. Big Ben, You were victorious today against 4 separate people, which is unheard of. You're a powerful voice. What is your recommendation?
Well, Spice World is an unapologetically British film, so I thought I'd go with another film in that could fit the description, and also has a very similar poster, and would recommend Shanghai Nights. And look, I know that these films are very silly. I know it, you know it, even the actors involved know it. But when you're having this much fun, it's hard to argue. Jackie Chan and Owen Wilson are fantastic together. Jackie's fights are always energetic and masterfully choreographed, using the environment around him to make each one very fun and unique. And it throws every British pop culture reference of the 1880s it can at you. And if you ask me, these have aged better than the Rush Hour films. So check them out.
I'm trying to look.
They need to bring back blooper reels.
Is it just because the Union Jack is behind them? That's what's doing it.
You're right.
Yeah. All right. That's a fun poster. That's the sequel, right? Yeah. It's the sequel. Do you already recommend Shanghai Noon once? Is that why you couldn't?
I did.
Couldn't do it.
So now they're done.
Now they're done. Thank God.
They should do another one though.
I don't think they will.
Shanghai Dawn has been planned for a while, but just hasn't got off the ground.
The much awaited trilogy. Rye Guy, you were a judge. What do you got?
Yeah, my recommendation this week is a pop classic released in the late 90s, early 2000s, and that is Peyton Reed's film Bring It On.
Yeah.
Even if this movie didn't star 3 of my hopeless crushes, it's stylish, funny, and surprisingly quotable considering it's about cheerleaders, a world I know nothing and ultimately don't care about. Sure. Bring It On is not currently streaming anywhere, but the Blu-ray is like $10.
The quintessential pre-9/11 movie. I've said it for years.
I'm
not going to. No, I've said it about Bring It On specifically.
Schlenzo, what have you got? What's your recommendation?
All right, everyone. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Today's movie was about music, so I'm going to recommend one of my favorite musicals, and that's Moulin Rouge. This is Baz Luhrmann's best movie, period. Full stop. I don't care about Strictly Ballroom, Ryan.
The low bar.
So this movie has great style. Obviously, the songs are fantastic. It's a real joy to watch visually, but is a bigger joy to listen to.
All right, cool. I'll send us on home. A year after the Beatles' A Hard Day's Night, a film was released featuring a band that rivaled their popularity at the time, at least in the UK, the Dave Clark Five. And that film is my recommendation this week. Catch Us If You Can from 1965, also known as Having a Wild Weekend here in the States. The Dave Clark Five are featured, but they're not playing themselves. Instead, Dave Clark plays a TV stuntman who absconds from a set with a beautiful actress model named Dina. And together they have a romp through London and the English countryside, repeatedly trying to dodge 2 henchmen sent by Dina's furious campaign executive. The soundtrack is comprised of Dave Clark 5 pop jams, which are very upbeat and catchy. If you're a fan of the Beatles' sound around that time, which I know Ryan is not, you'll dig this. But the themes of the film are much heavier, about the fleeting nature of personal connections, the frailty of dreams, and the group's difficulty wrestling with their newfound fame. Sound a little familiar? This is also the feature film directing debut of John Boorman, who would go on to direct Deliverance, Exorcist 2, and the cult classic Zardoz. So this is definitely worth checking out, as is the Dave Clark Five's work in general. It appears you can maybe rent it on Apple TV, but otherwise you might be stuck buying the fairly pricey DVD release. So good luck tracking it down either way, but catch this one if you can.
I love it. I mean, boo.
And with that, we are all at a show, but we want to thank our guests, Lydia, Naomi, Jen, and Sean from the Shocked Applaud podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having us. And when we end our show, we do a big yay at the end. You want to join us and applaud?
Sure. Do we do that right now? Because we have a tag. So how about we do our tag, and then we'll do your big yay.
Yeah, and then yeah. Totally.
All right. So we hope you'll join us again next time as the reels of justice keep turning.
Count it.
Girl power.
Yay!
I was
We're not paying them for that.
It's ours now.
Please follow us on Twitter at Reels of Justice, Instagram Reels of Justice, and Facebook.com/Reels of Justice.